Good evening. We are now in order, and the first item on the agenda is review of the previous minutes, which were distributed over email, so some of you might have had a chance to peruse them, so we'll take a minute and check the minutes. I have one small change on page 2, next to the initials BC. I think it should just be FMP, Facilities Master Plan, as opposed to MFP.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Transposition.
Agreed.
Good, Patty?
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept minutes from last meeting with amendments or changes?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted as revised. And we'll have the final wrap-up on the CIP and the vote. Because I believe it's been 3 or 4 meetings. We went through all the capital improvement plan items. And tonight, we're here to recommend action on them. So, Lynn, do you have any, I didn't know if Andrew was going to be here or if...
He said he'd be here a little, probably closer to 7.
Okay.
If you have any questions, but we weren't sure because we didn't get any emails or anything.
Right, I didn't think we had any questions. I just didn't know if he wanted to propose them and we could make motions on each one, or if we should wait for him. So we're happy to...
You can proceed if you...
I don't think, I didn't have any questions. Did anyone have any questions?
You know, they seem to match
Okay.
everything that's,
Do we do it in bulk, or do you want to go line by line? Or what?
I think we should follow what we did last year, was to go line by line.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at the top. The first requisition is for roadway improvements, and the proposed amount is $1.23 million. And if, as we propose motions, we're going to propose to recommend favorable or unfavorable action, and then we'll
I
take
noticed that
those.
some of the numbers are different than they are in the budget book.
Budget book or the CIP
Yeah.
book?
I mean, in the CIP?
In the CIP book?
Yeah. I'm looking at the roadway improvements at 1.220, and I've got 1 point,
1,239,000.
Oh, you're looking at the 2014,
oh, is
I
it?
think, yeah.
You have the right book?
Oh, 215 to 2, oh, okay, I got the wrong book, I'm sorry. Yep. Okay. All right. I grabbed the wrong book.
We have some questions, man.
You know, I had the old book for reference. There we go. Okay.
You were just testing, right?
Well, that looks okay.
That's okay.
This is roadway improvements, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, I'll move to what, recommend?
A second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The second is for the sideway reconstruction, as laid out in the schedule. in the CIP book for this year for $75,000.
Recommend favorable action on sidewalk reconstruction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the third item is for municipal information technology in the amount of $50,000, as outlined in the CIP book.
Recommend approval of municipal IT capital improvement investment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? The fourth item is what we would call kind of the facilities department line items, and this year it's $150,000 for Mr. Foster's department, $75,000. That's a good portion of which, about $75,000, which is going towards the library roof, and then others are for various items that come up during the year. We have a motion?
Motion to favorable action on building maintenance, $150,000.
All in favor?
Second.
Second.
Second. Yeah, and then we'll.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the fifth is this year's portion of the facilities master plan, which we should remember is for this year, we're talking about municipal buildings here, moving everything up from Osgood Street. Do you have a motion relative to the facilities master plan?
I move that we recommend it.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 6 is for the high school track resurfacing for $200,000, which Mr. Mealy discussed at last meeting.
Motion for favorable action on high school track resurfacing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The seventh and final line item is for, on the capital improvement plan, outside of the enterprise funds, is for school IT at the amount of $104,881. Do we have a motion relative to the school IT?
Motion to have favorable action on school IT.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we've recommended favorable action on all the capital improvement items outside of the enterprise funds. The second page is the water and sewer capital improvement. Item number 1 is for the ozone system clear fell baffles and detention tank upgrade for the water plant. Do we have a motion?
Motion to have favorable action on ozone system and clear well baffle retention tank upgrade for the water system, $70,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so approved. The second item is for the $250,000 for the demolition of the pumping station. It's the one on Route 133 as you head towards Boxford.
I move favorable action on the demolition of the pumping station.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The third item is for the corrosion study and repairs of water pipes in the amount of $95,000.
Move favorable action on corrosion study and repairs of water pipes.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The fourth item is for a chemical storage tank and feed system improvements in the amount of $70,000.
Motion for favorable action on item number 4 for chemical storage tank and feed system improvements of $70,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. I'm in favor as well, so. The fifth item on the water and sewer is the process control computer update in the amount of $150,000.
Recommend motion to accept process control computer upgrade.
Second?
All in favor for the process control computer upgrade?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. The next item is for improvements to various pump stations. I've heard about a number, including
The sewer enterprise.
in the sewer enterprise. A lot doing with Ray's Pond and a few other, and I think several others, in the amount of $750,000.
I recommend favorable action on the process, where are we? The improvements to the various pump stations, $750,000.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is the Commonwealth Ave sewer replacement. It's for replacement of a section of sewer down on the line near Lawrence for $125,000.
Motion for favorable action on Commonwealth Ave sewer replacement for $125,000.
Second.
All in favor of replacement of the sewer? Or
Aye.
Aye.
recommending favorable action? Any opposed? No. I believe that concludes all of the items on the capital improvement plan for FY16 that we've recommended favorable action on all of them. And I think that we had excellent presentations by all the departments and the town manager and the schools, and we understand, thoroughly what's involved in each one of these proposals, and that they can be done, and hopefully they'll be done as well as last year's, and well, at least the year before's projects have been done. So we're very happy with I would like to say that I am very happy with
On
the
time,
way in
under
which they've
budget.
been handled in the past few years. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I had one thing that I wanted that we could start to think about for next meeting, and as we go through the budget process. I'm always a strong believer in kind of starting with the end in mind, and now we're getting closer to the real town meeting schedule, that now we're on track, and more or less most of our meetings for the next several months are laid out, all aiming towards town meeting. And then we're getting an understanding of the budget. The budget will be released next Tuesday. Parts of it have been previewed. I'm not sure if the school committee has been, and if anyone knows, that'd be great to know. I'm not sure if the school committee has been able to have their budget hearing. I know they had it scheduled a few times, but I don't think they've had their presentation of the budget. But the entire budget will be released on Tuesday. We don't have a meeting to accept it, but that's when our season really starts in earnest. And so one of the things I wanted us to be thinking about was what form should our recommendations and our written and perhaps oral presentation to the town meeting take. And my thoughts are that we should really put some time into it and think about what kind of structure we want to have. I think it might also not be a bad idea to actually make a presentation. And I've been helped a lot in my thinking by you and by your comments during meetings, because over the past few months, I think, as we've come together as a committee and talked about various aspects of the budget and our role in the town budget, one of the things that Liz in particular has said is we're supposed to be the average citizens who take a look at the budget and think about things and help the townspeople who have a more limited exposure to these budget issues understand what's going on and distill the essence of the budget and help explain it and help it be as transparent as possible. So as we talk about a number of different aspects of the budget, the enterprise funds, the reserve accounts, and so forth, I thought that it might be productive to actually try to figure out what are the areas of the budget that we think are important and should be highlighted for the citizens, and how can we help explain that both in the letter, which we've traditionally put in as part of the warrant, and in a presentation. I had a conversation. I've been thinking about it a little bit. We could speak for 5 minutes. That's kind of the allotted time for the town moderator. If we wanted to put something together, and if we wanted to have any visuals or all, we could avail ourselves of that at town meeting. So those are just some ideas that I wanted to bring out and perhaps hear your thoughts on. And we can put it on the agenda for more discussion in our next meetings after we have the presentations, and start to think about what we want the presentations to look like. So, any thoughts?
Has this ever been done before? This is only my second year, and last year there wasn't any, so it's never been.
You might answer
finance-
questions. You know, but usually the town manager and between the town manager and the moderator that present the items, but they get bundled up into one line item vote for a whole series of things that we could go on for quite a bit of time and explain. So I think that's going to be kind of a challenge, unless they're willing to break, things out. There's been more of a tendency to bundle it up and get home. Yeah.
So are you suggesting that maybe in those cases where we have something that's a big item, it's got lots of things under it, that maybe we do something that says, okay, we realize this is a big number, but these are the key things.
Right.
We see this number being, and this is what we feel is most important about it. Boom, 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 boom. This number really, the kernels of this larger number are these big things.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as a private citizen, you would like to think that would be of interest, knowing what that big number constitutes, but not in any sort of, down to the line item. But
Right.
again, the biggest portion of this, or a percentage of this, or a pie chart that shows this much is going to this much is going to that, would probably be very helpful for people. I mean, we're, of course, creating a lot of work for ourselves. I mean, that's a major to-do. We could always ask Lynn to do it. She just does everything.
There's a lot of chats in the budget.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe we need to look at that too and see what's already there, make sure, again, we're not
Right.
recreating the
You
wheel.
can grab them rather than recreate the wheel. And use
Right,
what you
and just say, these are the things, these are the pages we found helpful, and this is, these are the things we looked at.
Though it strikes me that the piece, sort of what is our role, right? So to a certain degree, we've got all this information that's very detailed and so forth, but we're here trying to represent the citizen who doesn't have the time to focus in on all this. So maybe it would be just as helpful to have people understand what the process is, okay? The assumption is that, you kind of operate, well, how does the finance committee understand all this and look at this? Maybe it's just as valuable for people to understand what the process was and how we're looking at values and sort of some of those things that we've gone through for the past week. To me, that could add integrity to what's here rather than trying to add to it. Because I think, again, it's like getting you go to get your car repaired, and if you understand that I've got to get these sort of parts and this mechanic, it takes this time, you've got a little bit of explanation there. You don't have to know how it's fixed, you just have to understand there's integrity where you're at. And I think maybe that would be a good place to start for us, is that piece. Because again, you know, your information's here. It's how did we get there? And maybe the other thought is, that value proposition, the thing that, you know, we've talked about, which is we can't really get those, you know, comparables to it, but at least gives some of the things that you were talking about the other week, Lynn, and Andrew was, you know, have the citizenry understand that there's, you know, we're getting some very good efficiencies here. You know, it looks like there's a lot of money to repair pump stations or whatever, but if people can understand that these sort of things are weighed, maybe what has come to us, that might help too.
Right, and I think a lot of it too is the visuals and understanding what the different parts are.
Yeah.
I think it would help. I mean, we always do, you know, it is a separate vote on the enterprise funds, and there is a great deal of information in the warrant. But I think, you know, it's helpful, and things could be broken out or highlighted or elucidated in a way that would help people understand and make sense of what's going on.
Well, and one illustration would come to mind right away is that when we're talking about the DPW building, and it's like, well, why are we investing X millions? Why don't we just replace the building? When you understand those pieces, and maybe use that sort of thing as an illustration.
Right.
That might help. It's not necessarily each piece, but I think if people understand, well, these are all things that are weighed and are.
Drove the cost of what we're doing now versus doing.
Right.
Like acquiring a new site and building a new
Right.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And now people go, hey, okay,
Showing that these decisions aren't made in a vacuum, that
Right.
a lot of things have been considered and a lot of
Yeah.
options have been either asked about, already investigated, or
Right.
asked and answered.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, publicizing these meetings helps as well, because we did discuss some of that in this whole process. If anybody watches, it know it as well, so, you know, just to know that it isn't done in a vacuum, which is great.
Well, I think I would see a lot of value if we had, you know, some one-pager write-up.
Right.
Which, you know, I don't know, is part of, you know, when the invitation gets sent out to the town meeting, so people can, you know, I mean, that budget there are so many numbers in there. It's unbelievable. And, you know, my background is finance, and I'm still trying to.
Overwhelmed with the numbers.
Yeah. And I don't think we have to explain the budget. Andrew will explain the budget in the town meeting, you know, in great detail. But more in a sense of, and I wouldn't say like an auditor type of thing, but still, Chris, as you said, you know, there was a process. We believe the town follows, you know, certain standards and has some guidelines, and we believe they are adhered to, and so the budget is, you know, in good standing, or not, you know, depending on what we come up with. I think that would be helpful, so people get, you know, they don't have time to go through, you know, and they cannot verify all that stuff. But again, we don't have to go in every single detail and comment on any, you know, line item. I think that would be probably too much.
Right. Well, we do have, you know, we have recommendations in the, we recommend.
We have to do a little write-up on each.
Right, do a write-up on each financial article, but
And then we have an overall letter.
then we have an
do.
overall letter.
And those are all up on Dropbox or on the
Yes.
town website, so, because I
In
kind
the-
of
in the
want to
town-
refresh my memory of what
In
that's
the warrants,
about.
every year,
Yeah.
every
Right.
year there's
There's
a
like an
letter.
executive
Like
summary.
a summary,
Right.
right.
And then on each item, if there's people that are dissenting amongst the committee, they have a dissenting opinion, you know, why they
Yeah.
didn't go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good thing to think about next week, and I'm kind of poking around for examples of what other committees are doing, because I think it's helpful to look at our peers and see what their letters look like, and take a look at those. And I'll distribute them in advance at the next meeting. And, you know, we can also at least start to think about how we want to to approach that, so that we know at the end of the process what we want to, how we want to put things together, or at least we know what we think we want to do. And then it'll help us, I think it'll help us through the process as we hear from the different departments and department heads about their budgets and so forth, to kind of guide what we're going to do at the end. I didn't have any, there's nothing else. Please.
I just wanted to say a word about the Revenue and Fixed Costs Committee. We met on January 30, and the upshot on that one is that the projections, I'll read some numbers, reflect expenditures of $22,870,390 for FY16, and this is a decrease of about $703,000, or about 2.98% less than the fiscal 15 budgeted amount. But there was nothing in what our figures for the reserve accounts. So that will be recommended later in the process. And that said, I think Len saved us about $68,000 by paying.
We have the option to do a quick pay on an accounting retirement. It's been that process for the last 4 or 5 years. If you pay it within the first 5 days of the 1st of July, you get a percentage discount, and it averages about $68,000. Yep. We will get it in within 5 days.
Yeah, and so so that's quite a discount. That's very nice. I thought, and of course the group insurance amount won't be known. This is the GIC amount. All of that is being negotiated apparently with the health insurance providers, and that goes on in March and April. Is that right? March and April. So we're not going to know those numbers, and we were thinking that maybe those figures might be, I don't know what, 9 to 10% maybe on that.
Wow.
Other than that, we're done. Yeah.
Great.
Also, I should say, last weekend I went to the Massachusetts Municipal Association annual meeting and attended some seminars and things on municipal finance and other subjects. Also, I went to a presentation by the Department of Revenue that has a wonderful local service branch or department devoted entirely to municipal matters, and they have a website. We have access to a tremendous amount of information about our peers, which get reported. It's mandatory reporting, so we can find out what other cities and towns are doing in various departments. Hard numbers. I'm happy to circulate those links, but it's quite comprehensive, and we can, as a matter for research, we could probably go in and see how other cooks are making their stew.
Is this the same data bank that Andrew had mentioned?
Yes. Yeah. So I had some handouts. If you would like me to photocopy those handouts and bring them next time, I'd be more than happy to do that. Is that something? Yeah. Good. Okay, well, fine, I'll do that. They're really good. That's it.
But on that note, there is indeed a lot of information out there. I found, where you can actually do some benchmark. I actually started and spent some time while I was recovering from a cold and took Andover, the town of Andover's budget. It's almost similar structured and just put some numbers together. You have to be careful, of course, in a comparison, but it's actually very interesting. And I think as soon as we have the I did this all with the old budget, but now I'm waiting for the new budget, and then there's a lot of interesting things we can then discuss, from a high level. And also thank you for the debt schedule I asked for last time.
Yes, thank you.
So I had some time to go through, again, a lot of numbers. But directionally, I think it's going in the right way. The debt is going down, according to that debt schedule, of course, an investment schedule. A lot of interesting ratios, like, how much we actually raise in debt in comparison to our capital budget. I don't know if you target the 60%, but that's what I can see in the overall schedule. So very interesting to have that long-term view. So I don't see anything like going like this. It's nicely going down. So that was very helpful. So it made me feel a lot more comfortable about our capital budget. It's a bit heavy, I think, in the next 5 years. In the outer years, it's going down, and I guess it's a facility master plan that kind of, right, I think the base level, the reoccurring investment is a little bit lower, more like a 2 million or 3 million, and then the facility master plan, it adds quite a bit to the investment. So I thank you very much for that. I don't know if that was, you had to do this extra or you had it already, so very helpful.
One more thing. Liz, you circulated some things from the handbook.
Yes, the Mass Municipal Association has a separate sub-organization called the Association of Town Finance Committees, and I contacted them. We are indeed a member of that association.
We are a member of that,
They
'cause I
sent
was
me,
going to ask for.
well, they sent me CDs of the handbook, and they would not have done that if we were not members. So
So we
they
don't-
did send them to me, and I uploaded what they sent me, the actual handbook, and then there's some appendices to it. Those are all in a separate folder in Dropbox.
So we do not have to ask for a budget item, this committee for.
No, we don't have to, as somebody's paying our dues,
Somebody is paying our.
which I think are like $200.
This is really good, okay, yeah.
Yeah, somebody's paying our dues to the Town Finance Committee Association, so we're good.
There is a legislative breakfast coming up. Are you on the 6th, I think, of March? Something in that area. It's going to be in Georgetown. It's an MMA function. It's free. And I think the idea is that you can go and talk to your peers and in your area, and some legislators will also be there that you can query or just listen. So I throw that out as something that, I think it's like from 8 to 10 in the morning, something. Do you?
If I can do two quick things. First, that certainly people are willing to attend. It typically is MMA giving an overview of those. I mean, MMA is an advocacy group. We sometimes agree with those proposals that they make, and sometimes, quite frankly, we don't. We advocate separately through our legislative delegation for those things we think are important to North Andover, not unlike the budget comparison. It's based on any number of criteria. Who do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do contracts look like? What are the service levels, expectation? This is similar. So MMA will put forward, and already has put forward, a series of somewhere between 8 and 12 pieces of legislation that they're advocating for, again, some of which we would agree with principally and some of which we wouldn't, and we evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. But that event allows you to sort of see what's out there as the legislative process churns its way through, and it certainly churns its way through as time goes on. Second, we're due to introduce the budget, provide you with a copy of the budget next week, but introduce the budget the following week. Can I suggest that I provide that introduction to the budget next week? The following week is school vacation, and there'll be a number of people impacted by school vacation. So it would be my recommendation that I'll give you the overview, the sort of grand look to the budget. You won't have a lot of days to look at it, in fairness, but it really is an executive summary level on the budget on the next meeting. And then on the following meeting, figure out what the discussion is going to be for the Finance Committee, because we are traditionally impacted by school vacation week in terms of people's schedules.
We, in fact, We, in fact, have decided to move our second meeting of the month to a week forward, so that it's out of school vacation week.
Got
So
it.
from the,
So nothing is going to happen the week of school vacation?
no, it'll
Great.
be the Wednesday
Okay.
of the week we get back, we'll meet. Haven't quite heard back on the room yet, but we'll probably be next door if the Conservation Committee isn't
Great.
here.
Because we'll update the schedule and repost it online so that the residents are aware of when the schedule takes place. But we're getting close on the budget. It's the snow has impacted, I'll just leave it at that.
More coming.
More coming. The snow has slowed the process a little bit in terms of complicating some logistics and just getting through it, but we will manage that. We do not have, while we're talking about snow, we don't have a snow number for you yet, because typically our bills trail by several weeks the actual events. But safe to say, we'll be $250,000 to $500,000 over our expenditure, which was increased this year for the first time in many years to $875,000. But we plan at this point that we'll be able to manage that through controlling expenditures in other departments, as we've historically done. And our goal is to end the year without any need for town meeting action other than the prospective actions they'll need to take, and we'll manage our way through that. Now, if we have one or two more blizzards, I may change that. But generally speaking, if we're $500,000 or so over, I think we'll be able to manage within that context.
Any news on the governor's budget cuts and any impact on us?
There wasn't a lot of direct impact. I did read some of the detail. They all seem to be nibbling at the edges a little bit without any direct impact there. So I feel reasonably comfortable about that. There will be some smaller impacts to the cherry sheet, but not the larger items, which I think is what the governor said when he came on board. We do have other items on the cherry sheet, which is the document we received from the DOR that outlines our funding and our charges. I think sometimes residents at home are not aware of the fact that not only does the state giveth, they taketh away. So there are 2 pages to the cherry sheet. There is the revenue page and a page that we receive assessments that are down to about $500,000, but at one point well in excess of $1 million that the state charges us for various things like the MBTA, even though we don't have an MBTA operation here in town. We fund the MBTA, as do many communities in the Commonwealth. And so my sense is that those assessments may creep up a little bit, but generally speaking, we feel reasonably good about what we're hearing. The health insurance item is in play. The average health insurance increase for the GIC over the last 5 years has been 3.5%, which is great. What they're seeing is there's been a level of deficit spending, and the claims experience and the private providers, specifically Harvard and Tufts, are indicating that they will increase premiums pretty dramatically. So the GIC will be looking at options. If we make no changes, if the GIC, which is controlled by an executive board, if the GIC chooses to make no changes to benefit designs, then we're looking at about a 9.5% increase. We have accounted for that. I would say that the average increase we had under a previous provider when we were controlling or in self-insured, we averaged 10 or 12% over a decade. So we don't expect a lot of 9%, but every once in a while you're going to get that. We have factored in 9.5% into our expectations from a budget perspective. We're still tracking to present you with a budget that has a 3.5% increase for municipal spending and for school spending. You may have commented, I may have missed it, but the school department has approved the budget for fiscal 16, which is at 3.5% increase. That, of course, will be incorporated into the budget I provide you, and we are getting very, very close to having a municipal side, which is also 3.5%, which is consistent with what we talked about at the financial forecast, and still be able to meet the criteria of the Revenue and Fixed Cost Review Committee. So I think the only thing that wasn't directly said by the governor is that health insurance piece is lurking a little bit, and that we need to be particularly cognizant of what happens in that regard. But that's happening, everywhere. Health insurance continues to be an issue.
Thank you. Do you have any other, excuse me, again, I'll say that we'll send out an email. Patty's arranged the room and moved everything around, but we'll have our next meeting on the 25th instead of the 18th. Because I know at least a few people are going to be away. And then we'll go back for March. We'll go with our traditional schedule of second and fourth. I'm sorry, first and third Wednesdays of each month. Okay. Do we have a motion?
To adjourn?
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.